Well, hello everybody. Welcome to my video today. We're going to be talking about horoscopes, specifically why we as Christian women should avoid them. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to talk about what exactly a horoscope is. Some of you guys might hear me say that and you're like, I have no idea. So I wanted to explain. So basically, horoscopes, you hear a lot in today's culture about, like people will be like, oh, my sign is a fire sign and my boyfriend's is a Capricorn, which is why we don't get along. Things like that. So basically a horoscope is just another name for astrology. Astrology is when you look at the stars and you correspond different constellations, specifically 12 different constellations that make up something called the zodiac. There are 12 different constellations associated within that, and all of those have a link to a specific month. Now, it's very common in today's culture for each of those months to be linked to specific personality traits. So for example, if you were born in the months of like basically December, it's like a chunk of time in December, and I think a little into early January, I don't know. But anyway, that would be considered a Capricorn, and so they might say something like, Capricorns, this month you will experience blah blah blah, and Capricorns, you have these XYZ personality traits. Now, that's very common in today's culture, and we hear that and see that often. So astrology has been around for a millennia, and it actually showed up even before Jesus was born, so this has been a thing for a long time. It's been quoted, Egyptians and Greeks knew of the zodiac and used it to measure the beginning of spring centuries before Christ. So this has been a thing for a very long time, and it's nothing new. We just see it a lot nowadays because it seems very trendy. So what's the harm, you might ask? Why does it matter if I believe the zodiac signs? Why does it matter if I read my horoscope? Who cares? Here's why, and I want to give you a bunch of different reasons. Number one reason is that the Bible actually tells us to stay away from divination. Divination, according to Baker's Evangelical Dictionary of Biblical Theology, says that it is the communication with a deity for the purpose of determining the deity's knowledge, resulting in clarification of a decision or discernment of the future. Now, that's what divination is, whether that be consulting a medium or in this case horoscopes, because you're seeking out something else to tell you what your future is, and that is divination. The Bible is actually very clear about divination, and it says in Deuteronomy 18:10-11 that we are not to practice divination. So divination is basically when we turn to anything other than God to find out about our future, and essentially we're going against him when we do that. If he says specifically that we're not supposed to do that, we shouldn't do it. Also, something to mention is that the Egyptians and the Greeks that created this astrology thing, they were very into worshiping other gods, and if you look at all the Egyptian gods, there's tons of them, but actually those gods are all demons, okay? They're not just cutesy little gods with fancy goatees. It's literally demonic. So just know that. Finding and seeking out hidden knowledge, no matter how alluring, can be a trap. This is something called Gnosticism, when we seek out hidden knowledge, and it can be very alluring, just like the Enneagram or anything else kind of like that. It seems very alluring and it can really like get into your head, but I feel like that is when we have to really put our guard up against the enemy. When something holds our attention that much, that can be a problem. Also, something I would like to know is that we need to look at the Garden of Eden. So let's go all the way back to Genesis. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent tries to get Eve to question God, and he says something that's very significant. So let's turn together to Genesis 3. Grab your Bibles. In Genesis 3, the serpent comes to Eve and he's trying to get her to question God and trying to get her to sin. So he asks her, did God actually say, you shall not eat of the tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Right there, Satan is tempting Eve. He's like, do you want to be like God? You want to be like God. You want to know everything. And that is so similar to the lie that we find within horoscopes. It's like, you want to know everything. Let's unlock this hidden knowledge. It's so sketchy, guys. Like, seriously, be aware of that. Also, one thing that I want to mention is that the enemy masquerades as an angel of light. So we see that in 2 Corinthians 11:14, and it says, and no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. These things might look really good, like yoga, like horoscope, like whatever else, might really portray itself as being so fun and beautiful, but guys, the enemy disguises himself as an angel of light. So you might feel like it's so cool and it's like, wow, this so describes me, I feel so seen, but don't let it trip you up. You don't need to be seen by some astrological sign or somebody that wrote an article about an astrological sign. You need to be like, you need to know that you are seen and known by God fully. Like, he's the one that knows you. He should be your only identifier. Also, we see all throughout the Bible that God puts astrologers to shame. I'm just gonna reference some of these. You guys can look them up on your own. You see it in Daniel 1:20, Daniel 2:27, Isaiah 47:13-14, and so on. So when we base how we live on our horoscope, the enemy gets us super distracted, and really he gets us worshiping something that is not God. The future is not for us to know, that's for us to trust God with, and to trust that he knows, and to trust him with our lives. Also, I'd like to say that horoscopes have actually been debunked in many studies, and not only, so this is very interesting to me. Horoscopes are not correct. So you might be reading your horoscope and you're like, wow, this sounds so much like me. It's so crazy how much it knows about me. But actually they've done studies and have found it to be just total hogwash. So for instance, I found that this was really interesting. So after examining census data from 20 million married people in England and Wales, one researcher found that astrological sign has no impact on the probability of marrying and staying married to someone of any other sign. And other results have been similar in a variety of other studies. So just know that this has been debunked scientifically. It might seem like it's correct in your life right now or whatever, but just know it's been debunked. Also, I didn't realize this either, but it's actually a thing that astronomers think that astrologers are very naive, in that constellations have shifted in the time since those astrologers did all of their predictions, which is just very interesting to me. Like, I just found that very crazy. So all that to say is, just be careful. Stay away from horoscopes. You do not need a horoscope to tell you what your personality is. Seek that information from the Lord, not just from other sources. So be very careful, but there you go. Hopefully this was interesting to you. I hope you have a great day. God bless.